Okay guys, today I want to look at a couple of little things that we need to know a bit about, and the first one of them is forces. Okay, so we're going to look at 5 main forces, and we're going to try and do sketches to explain these as well. So the first one I'm going to look are the 5 of them. So there's going to be number 1, compression. Is when you squash something. So how you would show that is, so first of all, compression is when forces squeeze or compress an object. Now our sketch for it is going to be like this. So if this is our object, the forces are squashing the object. Now that would be like a voice now or something like that. Or I could also put it this way. It's like if you had a pillar on the ground and something heavy on top. Okay, so the forces are compressing it. So compression is our first force. Now examples: a voice or a vice grips. Okay, so squashing it. Now the second one then we'll look at I might just zoom in a tiny bit here. Okay, so the second one that we're going to look at is the opposite to that, which is tension. Okay, now tension is when forces pull something apart. So similarly here, we'll just draw an object. It doesn't matter what, but the forces are pulling it apart. Like that. Now, the examples of this would be I'll put them above just to save space. Examples: the hacksaw blade. Is a great example, because when you tighten, let's say if I just have a quick go here at drawing. That's a hacksaw frame. Here would be the blade. And here you would have what's called a wing nut. And when you tighten this nut, it's pulling the blade and tightening it. So that's a perfect example there of the blade is in tension. It's being pulled apart. But A clothesline or a wire tensioner, they're all examples of, or a tug of war, if you wanted an example of a tug of war where you'd have, like, I'll just draw 3 fellas here and 3 fellas over here and a rope going between them, and we better give them some arms. And here's the ground. But if they're pulling in this direction, they're pulling in this direction, so the rope is in tension, which is very different to compression, which is being squashed. So that's 2 forces. Now the next one then is a bending force. Now, a good example of bending is if you have, let's say you put a concrete block on the ground. And you put another concrete block on the ground over here. And then you put a timber plank. I'm going to put a bend in this now, a little bit of a bend. Down and back up again. And let's say we're just going to put a fella, we'll just draw a line diagram of this now. We'll just put a fella here. Pushing a wheelbarrow. So here's the handle of our wheelbarrow. Here's the body. Here's our front wheel and a stand. And because it's being supported out here and out here, and it's being pressed down here in the middle, that's a bending force. Okay, so bending is when a plank is supported at both ends and then being pushed down in the middle. Might just put colors on. Might color in our object here just so we can see it a bit better, because you need to be able to sketch these. So they're the forces for compression. Here's the forces for tension. Here's the forces then for bending. So the arrows here are very important, because you can't explain forces without the arrows. Now the next one I want to look at then is called shear. Now, shear is like a scissors, or like the guillotine in school. So I'm going to draw our object again. Now, if you had one force pressing down, and like just think of a scissors, or as I said, the guillotine that cuts metal in school there, and you've got one force pressing down and the other one force pressing up, but they must be a little bit apart, just a little bit. And what would happen there if you did that is that would become this. So shearing is used for cutting metal or cutting, generally it's metal, but no, it's not really, I suppose, because the scissors, when it's cutting paper, it uses that idea. So shear is two forces pushing, two forces a bit apart. Two forces a bit apart pushing against each other. So our examples then is a scissors or what's called a snips. It's like a scissors for cutting metal. So that's, and the last one I want to look at there then is called number 5. It's called torsion. Now torsion is a twisting force. Okay, so an easy enough example for torsion there, if I'm to sketch it, would just be if you could draw a screwdriver would do it, but I'd prefer to draw something like a ratchet. So if I just draw a round handle here, so here's our ratchet. And that's tightening if I can draw a bolt. So you don't need to get too worried about the top of this here, and I'm going to just put a threaded bolt here on this. Okay, so so I'm going to say example there would be a ratchet spanner. Okay, so torsion is a twisting force. Okay, so it's a kind of a rotation. So I'm going to put an arrow like that. And so as I said, an example is a ratchet, but it's also another example would be a screwdriver. Okay, so it's a twisting force. So I might just draw a screwdriver here as well. And just draw a screw as well. So that's a ratchet spanner and that's a screwdriver, but anywhere you've got twisting, I mean, if you're unlocking a door, that's torsion. It's a twisting force. So they're the 5 forces that I want you to know: compression, tension, bending, shear, and torsion, and to be able to give examples of every one of them. So see you later, guys.